what's going on? Justin Fuller, ex-Honda salesman, tech lover, today your host, and we're reviewing the 2025 Honda Pilot EXL. This is one step above the base, so today we're going to see how does this stack up against other makes and models, and then is it different from a 2024? So let's hop on in. One of the first things you probably want to know is what is underneath the hood of this thing. So let me pull you on in and let's talk about that. So you are looking at a 3.5 liter V6 engine putting out 285 horsepower. That is then running to a 10-speed transmission and then out to either 2 or all-wheel drive, depending on the trim that you pick. So the good news is it doesn't matter what trim level you pick, whether you pick one that's $48,000, $53,000, or $41,000, they all come with the same engine and the same transmission. So nice to know there. But I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the horsepower in this car, that 285 horsepower, stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up on the screen, I'll just remind you, if you jump down to a 2024, same engine, same transmission, same horsepower, you'd be safe to shop pre-owned. So two things going on here. First, I want you to get an opportunity to see what the front face of this car looks like. It's pretty clean look. It's got the nice big honeycombs. They see these really little ones that were really hard to clean in between, and it was a big pain in the ass for all the detailers who worked at the store. But this one, nice and big, nice, good, long, straight lines, pretty decent looking. But while we're up here, I want to talk to you about 0 to 60 times. This car goes from 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. Now, that's across all trims with the exception of the Trail Sport. That one, a little bit heavier, a little bit beefier as far as the off-roading capabilities, 7.8 seconds. So while we're here, I want to throw a comparison up so you can see how does this car stack up against other makes and models out there in the world when it comes to 0 to 60 time. While that's up, I'll just remind you, if you're looking at a 2024, same engine, transmission, 0 to 60 times are going to be the exact same. Shop pre-owned if you want to. All right, guys, so while we're down here, I wanted to give you an opportunity to check out the 18-inch alloy wheel that comes in on this vehicle. But while we're here, I want to talk about ground clearance. This car has 7.3 inches of ground clearance on the vehicle. Doesn't matter if you're shopping two-wheel or all-wheel drive, that's going to be the exact same. So I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does this car stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you, if you're looking at a 2024, maybe something pre-owned, doesn't matter, it's going to be the exact same ground clearance there as well. All right, guys, so if you're shopping SUVs, chances are MPGs is going to play a role at some point. So let's talk about that. This car in the two-wheel drive model gets 19 in the city and 27 on the highway. Now, if you jump over to one of those all-wheel drive trims, then you're looking at 19 in the city and 25 on the highway. So just something to keep in mind. Now, there is one trim level that is the exception to that, and that's the Trail Sport. A little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, a little bit slower. 18 in this city and 23 on the highway. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping this vehicle. But while we're here, I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does this car stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While it's up, I'll just remind you, if you're shopping at 24, not going to make a difference, the exact same. All right, guys, so before we go any further, I want to stop for a second and talk about something that I find really important that a lot of people seem to struggle with when they're shopping for SUVs, and that's understanding, one, what's the difference in the trim levels, right? So let's start you there and go through some basics. If I'm in this EXL and I'm thinking, hey, Justin, don't know if I want to spend this much money, I'm thinking about dropping down to that Sport. I want to show you how much money is that going to save you, but what is that list of items you're going to give up by doing so? So go ahead and take a look at that. And then after that, I want to go a different direction. Maybe we're in the EXL right now and we're saying, hey, I think I want to jump up a trim level. And I'm going to do this two different ways. If I jump up to the Trail Sport, how much extra money is that going to cost me? And then what is that list of items that I'm going to get? While it's up, I remind you, price point, the jump to the Trail Sport is not really the next jump. Trail Sport's a little bit more expensive. So we're going to do a secondary version. And that's if I'm in the EXL, instead of jumping to the Trail Sport, what if I want to go up to the touring model, right? Let's show you that also. So check that out, see how much money it's going to cost you to jump up, but then what is that list of items that you're going to gain? Because from a price point perspective, jumping to the touring, I think, is a little bit cheaper than actually jumping to the Trail Sport. All right, guys, so chances are if you're shopping SUVs, cargo space is going to be important, so I want to talk to you about that. First off, I just want to point out this is a powered tailgate, so you don't have to worry about that. When you're looking at this model, you're going to get a powered tailgate, but I'll throw something up on the screen just so you can see what the differences are, because some are going to have a sensor you can throw your foot on, some are just powered, and you may even be looking at a manual on a base model. So in the back of this vehicle, you've got 18.6 cubic feet of space from here to your third row. Now, while we're back here, there's a couple things that I want to point out. The first, you can either use this as hidden cargo space, which in the EXL, it is actually a deeper well. And the reason for that is, in this space, you can actually store that secondary piece right there, which I'll show you in a second. But if not, you have this hidden space that you can use. And then also you can flip this around if you want and go with a plastic side versus the carpeted side. Now, the second piece to this that I want to show you is over here. If you undo these latches, this is where you're gonna find your jack and your accessories. Now, if you need to get to that spare, it's actually living under the car, you would undo this, screw it, and let it lower down. And the EXL does offer this in either captain's chairs or a full bench seat, but this piece is removable, which you can store back there. So let me show you that. You can simply drop it down in here, and it'll actually fit down in the grooves. Once you get that down in there, you can actually take this piece, which I'll do hard side up this time, just for the sake of showing you it, and fit it in there, tucked away. All right, guys, now I mentioned there's 18.6 cubic feet of storage space here, but I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the 18.6 cubic feet stack up against other makes and models out there in the world. While it's up, just remind you two things. If you're shopping in 2024, it's going to be the exact same as far as the dimensions. And then when you're looking back here, just to give you an idea, if I had maybe carry-ons, I could fold them long ways and probably get 3 to 4 of them back here, so you have a better understanding for what does 18.6 really mean. All right, guys, so when you get behind the second row, you now have 48.5 cubic feet of cargo space inside of this vehicle. What I like about this is it gets extremely flat. You don't have this big, raised area or anything where it's kind of a wonky space to work with. This is actually nice and flat. You've got tie downs and tethers and anchors that you would typically use for car seats back here that you could use to tie something down. So kind of nice to know that you have those, and then you have actual tie downs over here on the sides. While we're back here, I'll just point out also you do have cup holders back here, air vents, and then additionally a USB-C on both sides for your passengers riding back here. But while we're here, I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the 48.5 cubic feet of cargo space in this vehicle stack up against other makes and models out there in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you, it doesn't matter, 2024, you're shopping the exact same thing. You're good to go. If you wanted to get to an alternative look, you might want to look at a Passport, which does not come with a third row and offers a different kind of look. So if you don't need the third row, Passport is something you might want to consider. All right, guys, so now when you flip down the third row and you flip down the second row, so from cargo space from the back all the way up to your front row, you have 87 cubic feet of cargo space. That is quite a bit of space. It is good usage too because it is very flat. You have a small gap here. So if you wanted to camp in your car and sleep in it, you could easily fill this with a pillow or you could just cover it with a board because this is very flat and easy to use. Now, if you're not, just understand you got this small cargo space here and cup holders, but that may play a role if you're camping, you want to have a place to store your phone, your water bottle, whatever the case may be. But while we're here, I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the 87 cubic feet of cargo space in the back of this thing up to the front row stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you once again, doesn't matter, 2024, you're safe to shop that. And if you're looking for kind of a different alternative and you don't need the third row, the Passport is a good option to consider. All right, guys, so here we are in the third row of this vehicle. Now, when I'm sitting back here, this is with the seat all the way back. I can still actually sit straight without having to go diagonal or anything like that. You've got 32.5 inches of leg space in the third row of this vehicle. It's actually quite usable. Now, while you're back here, I'll just point out a couple other things that I mentioned earlier. You do have your cup holders, you do have your air vents back here, and of course you do have USB-Cs to work with, and that's going to be on both sides. So kind of nice that you can take advantage of that. And then depending on if you have this flip down, you do have some additional space and cup holders to kind of create an opening and feel a little bit more open space when you're riding in the back. So while we're back here, I do want to throw up a comparison so you can see how does the 32.5 inches of leg space in the back of this vehicle stack up against other makes and models out there in the world. So go ahead and take a look at that. While that's up, I'll just remind you, 24, you've seen the theme here. The exact same, don't need to tell you much past that. All right, guys, so let's talk about the second row of this vehicle. In the second row, you've got 40.8 inches of leg space. So when you're coming back here, it's quite a bit of space. At the 32.5 in the third row, I've got plenty of space that I can work with in the second row. So understand you should have plenty of space. Now, back here, there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. The first is going to be materials. So in the EXL, it is going to be leather. I thought for years that it was EX and L stood for leather because EXLs always have leather. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's an easy rule of thumb to live by. But back here, you're looking at a black interior on this particular model. Depending on the color, you may have the option of gray or tan. So just understand, depends what color exterior you pick, that has a correlating interior in the vehicle. Other things that are back here, you do have air vents back here. You do have controls back here as well. And then 2 additional USB-Cs. So 2 USB-Cs back there, 2 USB-Cs up there. And then you've got a USB and a USB-C, and then another like cigarette power outlet back there as well. And then the doors, you do have cup holders back here, cup holders here, and then you've got some speakers, which we'll talk about the speaker systems here in just a moment. All right, guys, so let's talk about the front row of this vehicle. So in the front row of this vehicle, you've got 41 inches of leg space. It's actually quite usable. So if I tilt this back and throw this all the way back, which while I'm doing that, I'll remind you, you have a powered side on this side and powered on that. So I'm gonna throw something up on the screen so you can see which vehicles offer what style of seating as far as powered and unpowered. You can see the 41 inches of leg space in the front of this thing is quite a bit. I am 6 foot 250 and I fit in this car just fine. I could have easily probably been another 5-6 inches taller, which in a dream I would have been, and been able to fit up here. While we're here though, I do want to do a comparison, so I'm going to throw something on the screen so you can see how does the 41 inches of leg space that's in the front of this car stack up against other makes and models out there in the world. While it's up, I'll just remind you, it doesn't matter if you're shopping a 2024 or if you're shopping a Passport or several other vehicles, it's going to be the exact same. The 41 inches of leg space that you find in the front of this Honda is typically what you're going to find in almost every other version of a Honda, right? Whether it's a Civic and Accord, they all seem to share that 41 inches. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the buttons, but I just want you to get a general look and feel for the steering wheel. Sometimes you can get a car and a steering wheel can be overwhelming with a ton of buttons and crap just all over the place. This one's not too bad, right? So when I come over here, my home button will allow me to pick here, and then I can scroll through to get through all of these different menus that I have. And this is audio, navigation, you know, your distribution as far as torque, seat belts, maintenance, tire pressure, all these different things that you can get to. I've got my voice command button that I can use, or I can press and hold that for Siri or Google if I'm using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, jumping between tracks, and then my volume controls. Now, on the other side, there are two buttons that I do want to talk about that are kind of important related to safety features available to you in the car. Now, the first is your adaptive cruise control. If I get up to a speed I want to set, I can set it using this button, and you'll see the same indicator come on button from the dash. And then once I've done so, I can use this button right here. When I'm using this, it is using radar down in the grille to detect the car in front of me, and it'll bounce that off of it, right? So the more boxes I have, the more guaranteed space it's gonna keep between me and that car in front of me. This is adaptive cruise control. If you wanna flip over to classic cruise, you can just press and hold this button. You'll hear a beep and it'll say cruise mode selected. To flip back, press and hold again, and then it goes back to ACC mode, right? Now, the second part to this is lane keep assist. Lane keep assist, if I turn this feature on, you'll see the same indicator come on here. What it's using is a camera up here above the mirror to detect the lines on the road. So if I start to drift a little bit to the left or the right, it'll actually pull and keep me centered so I don't accidentally drift into the car next to me. So two very cool features. While we're talking about safety features, there's a couple other things I'll point out. One, I do have blind spot indicators in the mirrors right here. So if somebody's over there, this will light up, and then if I start to get over, you'll hear the indicator noise letting me know that someone is there. Additionally, you also have frontal collision warning system, which is very similar to adaptive cruise control. If it's looking like I'm rear-ending another car, it can be an audible alert, flash in the dash, and then actually apply the brakes to help prevent that accident. So using that same radar to detect cars in front of you. Now, there's a couple other safety features that I want to talk to you about, but I also want to show you where you can go to turn them on and off. So if you scroll down here, so you can see I'm scrolling on the mirror over here and go to safety support, I can select that. From there, I can scroll down, and then it's going to give me some of the options I have. So the first one being road departure mitigation. What that is if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it can give me an audible alert and then vibrate the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention, you're starting to drift off the road, right? So typically you'd probably be drowsy if you're seeing this. Blind spot information system, you can turn it off here. That's in the mirrors to give you audible alerts if somebody's there in your blind spot and you start to get over. Your low speed braking system, like if you're backing up the car and it's looking like you're rear-ending somebody, you can actually apply the brakes. Parking sensors, this car does come with front and rear parking sensors on the vehicle. My frontal or collision mitigation braking system, that's what I was mentioning earlier. If it's looking like I'm a rear-end of the car, can actually alert me and then apply the brakes if I do not to help me preventing from rear-ending somebody. So you can see all these different features that I can scroll through and get to and turn on and off. And there's also settings where you can affect how sensitive they are. So in a minute, I'm going to walk you through this touchscreen, but I want to explain something real quick, and that's there is a difference depending on the trim level that you pick on the size of the touchscreen that you get and the audio system that will correlate. So understand that in the Sport model, you get a 7-inch touchscreen with a 240-watt 7-speaker system. Now, we're in the EXL, which is a 9-inch system, right? 9-inch touchscreen, which you'll find in the EXL and the above model. So all the additional ones will have 9-inch. However, the EXL and the Trail Sport will have a 245-watt speaker system with 9 speakers, right? Now, when you get into your Tourings and your Elites and your Black Editions, that's when you're going to find the 9-inch system, but it will be a Bose 12-speaker system. And I'll tell you what the wattage is, but it's apparently a secret by Bose. Here we are on the touchscreen. The first thing I want to let you know, obviously, it does offer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and is a wireless system. So understand you don't have to use a wire to plug this in to be able to use this. Now, jumping back in here, I just want to show you the basics and walk you through a couple things. One, you do have an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You do have access to your phone if you want to use Bluetooth to call, anything like that. No big deal there. FM and AM, you do have these available to you. I'm not going to go through this necessarily. We all understand what it is. If you want to seek and find a station you want, press and hold after you do it, and you can set the station. Easy enough to understand it. And you do have HD radio stations related to that. You do have Sirius XM. You get 90 days for free, after which it'll then turn into a subscription that you would have to work out with those guys. You can get to your trip computer right here. We talked about that earlier, 19 in the city, 27 on the highway. Hopefully you can keep an eye on that and make sure that that is true. As we continue to move through, if you want to store music to a USB, you absolutely could down here and then be able to listen to music directly off that. Kind of cool if you get off grid and you're somewhere where you don't have service and you can't take advantage of necessarily your streaming services you might use. Bluetooth audio, you can stream anything you want. General settings, this is like equalizer, connecting up phones, disconnecting up phones, the display, right? Basic stuff. Now, next to that is where you're going to find your vehicle settings. This is where you can get to like door and window setups, keyless access setups. If you want to be able to walk up and touch the door handle and unlocks all the doors or just the driver's door, right? Stuff like that. If you want to be able to, when you shift to park, it unlocks all the doors, stuff like that. If you want to be able to set up to where you can lock the key in the car, you can do that as well. So a lot of different things you can do here. So let's jump back out of that and kind of come across here. While we're here though, I will remind you two things. One, if you want to rearrange the order of these buttons, all you got to do is press and hold the button. It'll pull this up and then you can start sliding stuff around. So if I wanted to move general settings over here, I could, and you can drag stuff up. You can eliminate buttons. You can change these bottom ones as well. And then when you're done, just press that. So just a reminder, super easy to work through this. Honda Link is set up to where it gives you subscription services depending on the level of the vehicle you're checking out. If you want to look that up, you can look up, I believe, HondaLink.com, or it might be mygarage.hondalink.com now. But they offer a plethora of different things. But one thing that's free in all the cars, and that's if you get in a wreck and your airbags deploy, Honda can call down to you. If you don't answer via Bluetooth, they can then call EMS and let them know your last known location, your make, model, that sort of thing, color of the car to help you out. So that's free. Just know that. You do have a compass in the car, AM, FM. We talked about the other system updates is related to Wi-Fi. It'll update. And the smart shortcut, as you continue to use this a lot, it'll start placing a button there for you that maybe it's something you commonly use. It's just kind of nice that it'll create a shortcut based off of your habits. So super cool that it does that. Outside of that display, Cabin Talk's actually really cool. Cabin Talk allows me to talk to the people in the back. It'll mute the speakers and allow me to talk to them. And then I could talk to them and they'd be able to hear me a little bit better. So kind of nice where you don't have to yell all the way to your third row passengers. You can talk because it uses the mic that's up in the front of the car. So super cool feature that you don't always find in every vehicle out there. Now, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, I think you all know what that is. If you don't, it just allows you to pull different apps from your phone onto the screen and be able to take advantage of them. Know that when you're in here, there's a lot of different things you can do. You can create shortcuts. So if you want to be able to automatically send you directions to the nearest library, cool. It'll fill in the prompt, do it for you, and then pull up, for me, it's going to pull up Google Maps.
Library is 5 minutes from your location.
And there's the nearest library, right? So kind of cool that it can do that. You can also set it to call someone. So I set it up here. I could press this and it'll immediately call my Google phone number, which if you ever have questions, you can shoot me a text or give me a call. I always put that in all my descriptions, along with my email and my Facebook. So a lot of different ways you can get in touch with me. Down here, there's a lot of cool stuff, but the big things are here. Understand there are settings that you can affect, right? So if you want to come in here, you can change a few of those things. One of the big ones that I find is changing the layout. Sometimes you want the media to be closer to you versus the navigation. So know that you can flip-flop these two. And then it will pull, it's pulling off my phone, so you can see my dog Hera back there and kind of filling in that space for me, which is kind of cool that it can do that too. And then if you ever want to rearrange the order of all these, if you press customize, it'll actually pull this up on the screen, and then you can either create or remove, right, any of those apps. Or if you want to add those shortcuts that I was mentioning, you could go to add shortcut and then select call a contact or an assistant action and fill in those things like I did, like library, Starbucks, nearest Whataburger, whatever the case might be. All right, guys, so we made it through the entire review of the vehicle. So now I want to stop and go back through all of the different comparisons. So if you happen to be out there, you were distracted, you were watching TV, maybe you're walking your pet fish, now's the time to pay attention. All right, guys, so with the front of this car, you have a V6 engine putting out 285 horsepower. So I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the 285 horsepower stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you two things. One, doesn't matter which trim you pick, they all come with the same engine and transmission. And then two, if you shop a 2024, it is going to be the exact same engine and transmission as well. Now, the second part to that I want to talk to you about is 0 to 60 times. This car goes from 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. So I'm going to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does that 6.9 seconds stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you, exact same in the 2024, but be aware that if you shop that Trail Sport trim, it is going to be a little bit different because the vehicle is a little bit heavier, a little bit sturdier design for off-road. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is MPGs. This car gets 19 in the city and 27 in the highway. Now, I'm going to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does that stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll remind you two things. One, 19 in the city and 27 on the highway is going to be in the two-wheel drive model. If you're in that all-wheel drive model, it's going to be 19 in the city and 25 on the highway. And then if you're in that Trail Sport trim, then you're at 18 in the city and 23 on the highway. So just be aware, depending on the trim level of the vehicle you pick, and all-wheel drive or two-wheel drive is going to affect your gas mileage. Now, when you jump into the front of this vehicle, you've got 41 inches of leg space, quite a bit to work with. But I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does it stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While it's up, I'll just remind you, I'm a 6 foot, 250 pound guy. I fit in this car nice. Got a nice big center stack here that I can lean up on. You should be pretty spaced out and be able to stretch out your legs if you need to. Now, when you jump into the second row of this vehicle, you get 40.8 inches of leg space. So I'm going to throw something up on the screen so you can see how that stacks up against other makes and models out in the world. While it's up, I'll just remind you, with the seat pressed all the way back, I had tons of space. Even with it pressed up a good amount, I still had a good amount of space to work with. And then a reminder, you can get this in a full bench and remove this center section and make it into two captain's chairs, or you can buy it strictly with two captain's chairs. So kind of nice to know that when it comes to second row. Now, when you get into that third row, 32.5 inches of leg space. So I want to throw a comparison up so you can see how does the 32.5 stack up against other makes and models out in the world. While that's up, I'll just remind you, that's actually usable space. I could sit with it pushed all the way back and be sitting without having to go diagonal or turn my feet all wonky. As an adult, I can fit back there. You can't always say that about a lot of the vehicles out there. All right, so now let's talk about cargo space. So when you have all of the seats flipped up, right, even the third row flipped up, behind that, you've got 18.6 cubic feet of cargo space to work with. So I'm gonna throw something up on the screen so you can see how does the 18.6 cubic feet stack up against other makes and models out in the world. A reminder, depending on the trim level, it may be a little bit deeper as far as that cargo space back there because you can store this centerpiece in that very back area, which I showed earlier in the video. Now, when you fold the third row down, from the second row back, you've got 48 cubic feet of cargo space back there. So I'm gonna throw something up on the screen so you can see how that 48 cubic feet stacks up against other makes and models out in the world. While it's up, I should remind you, if you're in a 2024, it's the exact same. And I do like that it's really flat back there. So if you want to camp in your car, this is actually very usable space. Or if you need cargo space that's not going to have things shifting all around, kind of nice to know. Now, when you fold down all of the rows, all the way up to this front row, right, you now have 87 cubic feet of cargo space from here back. So I'm going to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does this car stack up against other makes and models out in the world. And then, as I always mentioned, if you wanted to camp in this car, it would be easy to do. Very flat and workable space. If you need to throw some bicycles back there, you could absolutely do it. Camping gear, you could absolutely do it. Maybe you're in a van and want to throw some stuff in there, you could absolutely do it. You have quite a bit of cargo space to work with in the back of this car. Now, I want to take a second to talk to you about ground clearance. So this car has 7.3 inches of ground clearance on the vehicle. So I want to throw something up on the screen so you can see how does that 7.3 inches of ground clearance compare. Now, a reminder, if you're going to 2024, that is going to be the exact same, doesn't matter. And if you're in a two-wheel or all-wheel drive model, not going to make a difference. It is still going to carry that same ride height. All right, guys, so one of the last things that I want to talk to you about is the trim levels. We are in the EXL right now. If I want to drop down to that Sport, I want to know how much money I want to save and what's that list of items I have to give up to get there. Now, after we've done that, there's two comparisons I want to do past this, and that's one, if I'm going from the EXL, I'm going to skip the Trail Sport for now, right? I want to go from EXL to Touring, right? I think it's a smaller price jump. How much extra money is that going to cost me? What is that list of items that I'm going to gain by doing so, right? Now, the last one is if I go from the EXL to the Trail Sport, because I believe that is more expensive than the Touring model, even though it's the next one in line, how much money is that going to cost me? And then what's that list of items that I'm going to gain? So while that's up on the screen, I'll just remind you, Trail Sport's more of a, it's got trail cams on it and heavier suspension and things like that. It's really advertised to be an off-road vehicle that you take and go do whatever it is that you want to do, right? I think most people are probably just mall crawling in them, but that's no big deal. Nonetheless, know that it's out there and it's an option available to you. So hopefully all those comparisons helped you out. I have a couple favors to ask. One, I hope you press the like button because you like the way I present the content. Two, I hope you leave a comment. If you got a question, a comment, a concern, or you just like the way I'm doing things, please leave a comment. Makes me feel good. And others like to know if there is a question that we can all help answer. Three, I hope you subscribe to the channel so when I produce videos like this, you will receive them. And then four, I hope you share the video, man. If you got some friends shopping for SUVs, specifically looking at Hondas, hopefully you'll share this content because it helps them out to make a better decision. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Let it get it!